please leave them in the chat in Zoom or on Facebook Live, and Jamelah will respond to you as soon as possible. To be eligible to win our next door prize, you can register and watch via Zoom or leave a comment during the workshop while you watch on Facebook Live. And now here's Jamelah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamelah Henry, and I will be the presenter for the Resilience and Remarketing Yourself in the Job Market presentation. For myself, I am a certified HR professional. I am a HR recruiter, career coach, and a business and career skills trainer. I do want to acknowledge that we already have questions scheduled at the end of the presentation under the Q&A. If there is a question that is not listed that you would like to ask, feel free to leave it in the comments and I will be sure to respond to you. All right, now, so let's go ahead and get started. One of the first things I want to talk about is having a professional cover letter. Many people tend to think, oh, I need to update my resume, but not too many people think about updating a cover letter. A cover letter gives you the opportunity to explain yourself. So you may have been laid off, you may have employment gaps. There are certain reasons why you may not have been able to work. You want to highlight that in your cover letter. Most of the time, hiring managers, recruiters are wondering why you have a gap on your resume or wondering what happened, why you left a company. This is the perfect opportunity to explain yourself up front. You will have a higher chance of someone reaching out to you because a question that they already have in their mind, you already answered that in your cover letter. Another good thing to include in your cover letter is to share your next step in your career goals and passion. What are you looking for in an employer? What are your goals as far as your career? You can list that in your cover letter as well. So here is an example, and I'm just going to read one part of it. It says, I was laid off in 2020 from and used the time off to work through family issues, adjusting to the new way of living. I am actively looking and seeking a new role right away. I am confident that I will be able to add value to your organization. I welcome the opportunity to speak to you about the role I am applying for today or any other roles within your organization that fit my background. So that's just an example of someone explaining briefly, without going into too much detail, why they may have an employment gap or why they may have left their current employer. So as a hiring manager and recruiter, you're able to get that information right away, and then you can make a decision on whether or not you want to reach out to this individual. So definitely update your resume, but do not forget about a cover letter. The next part that I want to talk about, which is very important, it seems to be a hot topic. I know most people heard of transferable skills. So this slide is more so for people who are looking to change industries. So let's say you've been in the restaurant industry for a few years, and now you're trying to switch over to another industry. That's not impossible to do. People do it every single day. But for yourself, you're wondering, well, how do I do it? So these are a couple of tips that you can include on your resume to be able to highlight to the reader on how you are able to take your skills from your current industry and apply it into the industry for the role that you're applying for. So you want to highlight upfront your cross skills that can be used in a different role in the industry. And then also by you updating and highlighting this information, it shows that you took the time out to acknowledge what you bring to the table. So if a hiring manager or a recruiter is looking at this information on your resume, they're able to connect the dots. Okay, I see why this individual applied for this job. So for example, the first one, and these are examples that I pulled from resumes that I've done over the years. So these are some of the actual things that were on people's resumes. So one of the first examples, it says transferable skills up top. The first one says display confidence in new work environments with a willingness to learn. So one of the key words is confidence. That person may have confidence in their old industry or their old role, and they know that that is important in this current role. So that person just highlighted that on their resume. Another one is ability to accept and give constructive feedback. In the industry that you're looking to go into, that may be very important. So that's something that you can transfer from one role over to another role. So those are just a few examples. There's more there, but those are just some examples of what you can do as far as highlighting your current skills and how they will be able to adapt to a new role. Something else that is important are key soft skills. Soft skills are things that you are able to do to be successful in your role. So for example, communication is one of the ones that's listed in the middle example. So empathy, written communication, and constructive feedback. Those are part of key soft skills that you have when it comes to communication. So not only on your resume are you highlighting that you have good communication skills, but you're highlighting and targeting the areas where you have your strongest strengths. So that's very important as well, because you're going into more detail instead of just listing that you have effective communication skills. Also listed, the last example is the core competencies. This one is a little bit more advanced, but you're also going into detail a little bit as to why you can do the job that you're applying for. So if you go down to the second bullet point, it says negotiating, influencing, engaging stakeholders, and creating value-added solutions. So you're basically saying I have the ability to negotiate, influence, and engage others. So in this resume, this person is basically saying, I am able to do that, or I have done that in my current role, and I can continue to do that for the role that I am applying for today. So transferable skills, soft skills, core competencies, those are areas that you want to highlight on your resume in order for you to stand out from your competition. Training, very important. You want to remarket yourself, you have to be able to learn new skills. So a couple areas there where you can learn new skills, get information as far as different training, LinkedIn Learning, and I'll talk about LinkedIn in another slide. But if you Google LinkedIn Learning, that is a great area to go for personal development. A lot of recruiters, hiring managers acknowledge that type of training. Allison Courses, and I have the email here listed. If you go to allison.com, you can go there and choose different trainings there as well. And you can also receive certifications for those training. If you are looking to go as far as different certifications, you can go for certifications in a certain skill trade, HR, sales, accounting, healthcare. For myself, I mentioned earlier that I was a certified HR professional. Well, I'm certified because I recently took my SHRM, which stands for Society of Human Resource Management certification. And that is how I became certified as an HR professional. So if you want to be certified in your field, look for certifications. For some people, it's a cheaper option instead of going back to school. So definitely look into that avenue. Some people already have certifications, so you may just need to renew. So find out information on how to renew certifications that you already have in existence. Another option is to go back to school. Some people, may have been pondering on whether or not should they advance their education. If you can go for it, if you have that opportunity to do so, I say go for it. A lot of companies, a lot of jobs, they're starting to be very competitive. So for roles that you typically wouldn't need an associate's or a bachelor's degree in, they're starting to ask for those degrees. Or if you look on job applications, you see associates or bachelor's preferred, high school diploma required. So they're telling you, we will accept someone with a high school diploma. However, we prefer someone with a degree. Not saying that you won't get a job without a degree, but if that is an area in your industry where it is highly preferred, I would recommend going back to maybe doing online schooling, and just setting a goal for yourself, setting a plan. You don't have to graduate next year or the year after. You can go to school part-time, but maybe just taking some courses just to advance your education. If you do decide to go that route, you can list an expected graduation date on your resume. So if you decide to go back to school 2021 and you know that you have another 2 years that you may need to complete, then you can put your expected graduation date of 2023. So that is just letting the individual on the other end know that, hey, I have decided to go back to school and this is when I plan to graduate. So that's another plus or something that can help you stand out as well. So I talked about LinkedIn a few slides back. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth as far as LinkedIn. If you have not heard of LinkedIn before, LinkedIn is the best platform for you to go to connect with recruiters and also for you to network. I always tell people you can always upgrade in your career some way. So if you do not have any type of social media presence for yourself when it comes to job hunting, job searching, I would recommend for you to start with LinkedIn. And a lot of people think LinkedIn is for just white collar jobs, meaning professional type of roles. But no, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of employers are on LinkedIn looking for talent in various industries and at all levels. So do not think that LinkedIn is just for high level professional roles. No, it's for all type of roles. So definitely consider creating a LinkedIn profile. If you already have one, then I recommend that you update your profile at some point. So on this example here, this is my profile that I have currently. If you're on LinkedIn, please reach out to me, connect with me, and I can connect. I'll follow you back as well. But here's my profile here. Other platforms that you want to consider when it comes to job searching is Indeed, Monster, Flex Jobs is a good one for remote jobs if you're looking to work remote, work from home jobs only. Snag a Job, that is for hourly workers. So there's various platforms that you can go to. I would say most of the jobs that you find on one of these platforms, you're likely going to find that job on LinkedIn as well. So, because I do a lot of cross-referencing, so I'll check Indeed for a job, if I'm helping someone, and then I'll go back to LinkedIn and see if that same job is there. And most of the time it is. So usually what I do is I start with LinkedIn as far as my job search when I'm helping clients, and then I trickle down to the other job search platforms. So I would suggest for you to try them all, but start with Indeed. Most people do that. And if you want to learn more about an employer, don't just apply for a job and don't know what type of company you're applying for. Sometimes people just look at the role and not more so the company, and you have no back history about that company. Well, and for you to learn more about that employer, if you go to Glassdoor, you can look up employer research. You can learn about the culture. Certain employees that work for the company or worked there in the past will give a rating and give feedback on that employer. So if you are looking for a job right now, or when you do start looking for a job, I definitely recommend that you use Glassdoor as a way to research employers. Network and stay connected. Connect with people who are already in the industry, in the job market, who are able to give you feedback, advice. So I do weekly, every few weeks, I do YouTube videos, and I pretty much help people and give feedback and tips on how to be able to make it through your career journey. So there were a lot of experiences that I experienced over time that I share with job seekers, people who are looking to go into new industries. So I pretty much share a lot of information on YouTube. So if you happen to be on YouTube, please connect with me and watch some of my videos. I'll give great feedback. I will also start listing other videos, which 1-minute tips that will help you while you're on your job search. Also, join my mailing list. If you go to careercoaching.com, I send out weekly emails with all types of information, blogs. I do monthly blogs, pretty much helping job seekers with advancing themselves in their careers or also getting started. So those are 2 areas where you can start with connecting with someone that is in the field. However, there are so many others out there. So go on YouTube, look at career professionals, look for career advice. My recommendation is to get advice from people who are certified in HR, who are actively doing the job now, because so much has changed since last year and the year before that. So finding someone who is in the market now who can give you real-time information. I definitely recommend that you attend webinars. I see so many different webinars that are listed as this one right now. And then also there are other ones that you can go on LinkedIn and you can listen to that are pre-recorded. And then also once you listen to them, you can also have them updated to your profile. Also, I recommend joining groups. There are tons of groups on LinkedIn. There are tons of groups on Facebook, job groups. If you are in some of these groups, keep a lookout to see who's hiring. And then also just make sure that you keep a list for yourself. That way, when you are starting to look and you're starting to be active in your job search, you'll have something that you can reference back to. And then also read blogs. Reading, updating yourself on the current trends and the strategies and the market is very important. There are so many different bloggers out there who share good information. And one of the things that I've noticed too is a lot of the blogs that I share, when I go back and listen to other people, it's consistent. So a lot of times when you are listening to different people, you just want to listen out for consistency. And if you hear consistency amongst the different people that you're listening to, then that means that you're on the right track. And if you don't hear any consistency, feel free to reach out to someone and say, hey, well, I heard this. What is your thought process on this? So each person may give a slightly different response, but as long as it all comes together to be able to benefit you in the end, that's what's most important. So definitely network and stay connected with HR professionals. Now let's get into the part of going into your job search, going into your job hunt. It is frustrating to say the least. I've been there. So one of the things I want to mention is do not settle. One of the things that I've noticed when clients come to me is they don't really brainstorm and really think about what they really want to do. So a lot of times when I ask, okay, how do you want me to structure your resume? A lot of people can't really tell me because they haven't even thought that far as to what they want to do next. I just know I don't like my job and I want to get out of my job, but I don't really know what I want to do next. So brainstorm and find out what you really want to do. You know, think about your strengths, think about your skills, do some research. Before you reach out to someone for help, you want to have an idea of what direction you want to go in your career. Now, this person may be able to give you some input, feedback, talk to you about the market, but overall, you should be the final decision maker as to what you want to do for next steps in your career. So take time out to brainstorm and think about what those next steps are. And then once you do that, then you can structure your resume to what you want it to be. Okay, I'm in this field, let's say field A, and then there's field B. Now you can take your resume and take all the things from field A and now turn it into field B, wherever that may be. So you want to make sure that you're structuring your resume to what you want. Then you also can have multiple cover letters for different industries. Now, if you are applying for jobs within the same industry, you can get away with using the same cover letter, but just changing the job title. But if you are looking to apply for jobs within two different industries, but you have the skills for both, and we're going back to transferable skills, which we talked about in the beginning, then you want to create multiple cover letters, but you can still use the same resume. Then you also want to apply for multiple jobs at once so you can have options. Sometimes people settle because they don't have options. So you want to give yourself options. So you want to apply for multiple jobs. Don't just stop at 2 or 3 and say, oh, okay, I'm done. No, you got to keep going. So you got to apply, apply, apply. And then also focus on long-term versus short-term goals, desires. So that's where research comes in. Goes back to the first point that I made, brainstorming, finding out what you really want to do. Do I really only want to do this for the next year, or do I want to do this for the next 5 to 7 years? So brainstorm and then focus on your long-term versus your short-term career goals. Not saying that once you find out what you really want to do, you have to stay in that forever. No, but at least give yourself a long-term plan as far as the next steps in your career goals. Apply for small and mid-sized employers too. So I speak to people a lot of times, and they always want to go for the big name employers. I want to apply for this company, this company, this company. And most of the companies are top employers. Right now, those employers are competitive. It depends on the industry, the market. But a lot of those companies with things that are in demand right now, I can't even think of any examples off the top of my head, but there are many applications that are being sent in for big name employers. So I would say do not forget about small and mid-sized employers too. There are so many startups, so many companies out there that are really doing really well, who haven't been impacted as much due to a recession, COVID, so forth, who are actually hiring. So don't dismiss employers who you have not heard of before. So you want to do your research on startups, of course. You can go to Glassdoor. You may not see that much information on Glassdoor if it's more of a new company, but you can still go on Google and just look up as much information as possible. And then once you do, let's say you get an interview and you happen to speak to someone from that company, you want to interview them too. Not only are they interviewing you, you want to interview them. You want to ask about questions about things that matter to you: growth, stability, diversity, work-life balance. Do those things matter to you? If so, bring them up. And that's for any employer that you interview with or you speak with. You want to let them know like what your top concerns are and things that make you more attracted to that employer. So definitely bring those things up during the interview process. The next thing is to have confidence. A lot of times people that come to me, that's one of the first things that I notice is the lack of confidence. It stops you from reaching your full potential. So you want to believe that you have what it takes. You may apply for a job that is out of your comfort zone, and it's something that you really don't think you can do, but you have the desire to do it. I say go for it. Get out of your comfort zone. You never know where that next step in your career will lead you. So get out of your comfort zone and start applying for things that you probably, may question if you can really pull it off, but you have a strong desire and a passion to do it. So once again, going back to those transferable skills, if you can take your prior skills and implement it into a role like that, then I say go for it. But get out of your comfort zone, because a lot of people are stuck in jobs and stuck applying for jobs because they are comfortable. So if you are looking to advance in your career, you have to get uncomfortable for a time period. Once you get into that role, you will realize, oh, wow, I am actually good at this. and you have a passion for it. So now not only are you working in a job that you're good at, but you're also working in a job that you're happy about. And that is very important as well. So find a mentor or a career coach that can help guide you if you know that that is an area that you lack in. Usually mentors, career coaches will help you build yourself up to the point where you say to yourself, I do have this. Okay, I can go for this. So just focus on someone who can be your support system if this is an area that you lack in. Another thing is to have patience. Have a daily goal and stick to it. So if you want, you can give yourself 2 to 3 applications per day. That's usually 10 to 15 per week. If you want to do 1 per day, that's fine too. So give yourself a goal and you want to stick to it. So you can have a little sticky pad, you can have a board where you have your goals listed, and every time you fill out an application, you can cross it off. I would say by the end of a week or 2 weeks, you should have yourself some options, but you want to have patience. Finding a job is a job all in itself. So you want to have patience and you just want to allow those opportunities to come to you. Another thing is to be prepared. 1 week is nothing, and the next week you have multiple opportunities. I had someone recently who was saying to themselves, wow, I applied for all these jobs and I haven't heard anything back. And then that next week they reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, I have all these phone interviews with so many different employers and I don't even know what option to take. So be prepared for that flow to come. And you want to be able to narrow down what the best decision is for yourself. And also, if you get a rejection letter, just move on to the next, even if it's for a job that you really wanted. You're going to receive rejection, whether it's through the job market or anything else. That is part of life. So if there is a job that you applied for, you didn't get, don't beat yourself up and just not stick to your daily goal anymore because you're frustrated. No, you keep going. A lot of times you will find that that job that was rejected, that rejected you, you will find out that the job that you end up getting, if you follow a lot of these techniques that I'm sharing, was probably a better fit for you anyway. So don't settle, and then also have patience. And one of the last things that I want to share on how to remarket yourself and also remain resilient is to remain positive. Very important. A lot of times people can be bitter, upset, frustrated with their current situation. And I can tell you as a recruiter, we can hear that on the other end. So if you are experiencing a bad time in your life, don't allow it to fester when you're job hunting, because that will impact you as far as being able to be successful in your job search. Lack of enthusiasm and excitement about an opportunity shows even when you're on the phone. So if I'm talking to you during a phone interview, act like you're excited about this opportunity. Let's say you have a phone interview for an opportunity that you applied for, but it wasn't one of your top choices. Still show enthusiasm and excitement, because you never know what that could lead to. So you definitely want to make sure that you're remaining positive and you're staying motivated. And then the motivation will come back once you apply for jobs that fuel your passion. Going back to a couple slides when I talked about applying for roles that you have a strong desire in, go for things that fuel your passion. If you've been out of work for a year and you're looking for a change, you don't want to go back to the same thing that you just came from if that is not what you desire. Think about it, brainstorm what fuels your passion, and then set your resume up and set your interviewing skills and things up so that way you can be able to land opportunities in that field. And then the last thing is to practice smiling. I can see if I will know if you're smiling on the other end of the phone. A smile comes through a phone, believe it or not. Keep a smile on your face, but not just during the interview and not just during job hunting, but at all times, as much as possible, practice smiling, because you never know that while you're job hunting, you're job searching, who is paying attention to you. And if someone sees that you're always smiling and happy and confident, then that could potentially open up a door for you. So keep a smile on your face at all times. And I don't mean 24/7, but as much as you can. All right, so next we are going to go into Q&A. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have a question that you would like to have a response to, please leave it in the comments section and I will respond back to you. All right, so the first question says, I've experienced COVID the past year and have anxiety about going back to work in person. I'm on unemployment now and actively looking, but don't want to work on site. Any suggestions on where I can find remote only jobs? So this is a really good question because a lot of people have this anxiety, have this fear, especially if you experience COVID. Even if you have a vaccine, people still may have this same feeling. My suggestion is there's many areas, most job boards that you go to, you can sort by remote. So if you go on Indeed.com up top, where it gives you the filter options, you can filter the jobs by remote only, which means work from home. Also on LinkedIn, if you search jobs on that platform, you can check for remote only. You can also go to Google directly and just type in remote only jobs in whatever city and state that you live in. So there's different areas or platforms that you can go to search these type of roles. I know a lot of companies are starting to talk about going back into the office. And then some companies give employees still the option to choose to work from home or go back in the office. So what I would say, go back to the industry that you're in and see if working from home is a common practice. If it's not, then I would say use your transferable skills to start applying for jobs in this where you can work remote. So it really depends on the industry that you're in, but just to answer the question overall, go to Indeed.com, LinkedIn, and other job search platforms and just filter your search by remote only jobs. The second question is, I've updated my resume and not getting many hits from employers and beyond frustrated. Any other tips on what I can do to get a call back from jobs I know I'm qualified for? So there is a system that some companies use called an applicant tracking system. It's ATS, that's what its applicant tracking system stands for. And basically what that means is if an employer runs your resume through an applicant tracking system and you do not have certain keywords as it relates to the position that you're applying for in your resume, your application, your resume is going to go to the bottom of the pile and it likely won't get fed to the recruiter. So in order to increase your chances of having your resume put to the top is you want to include keywords into your resume. That when I work on people's resume, that's one of the main things that I've noticed is the lack of keywords. So how do I find those keywords? Well, what I do is I find job descriptions online similar to the type of job that they're applying for. And I just go through those job descriptions and pull out keywords and apply them somewhere in their cover letter and their resume. So you can do that as well. So if you are applying for a job, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but if you're applying for a job in a certain industry, just go into one of the job searching platforms, type that name of that role in, and it doesn't matter what city and state, just find a job description from anywhere, long as it has that same job title. Go in and see what the common keywords are, and then just implement them into your own resume. That should help you with being able to have your resume pass those applicant tracking systems. The next question is, I'm working, but want to explore outside opportunities. I've been with my current employer for 10 plus years and don't know where to begin. Can you tell me what my first step should be? So this is another good question, because a lot of times when people hear the word job seeker, people automatically assume that it's someone who is out of work. But a job seeker can be someone who has a job, who is currently working, and they may just be ready for a change. So my recommendation is to reach out to someone that is a professional or who is highly experienced in an area that you want to go in. So the first thing you want to do is brainstorm. What do you want to do? Because no one can really answer that question for you except for yourself. So brainstorm, figure out what it is that you want to do. Once you narrow down what you want to do, find someone who does that already. If you can, connect with people online, network. I talked about that a few slides ago. Start reaching out to these individuals and asking questions about their job field, what they do, what do they like, what don't they like. So start doing your research there. So I would say that would be the first step, is brainstorming and then networking and connecting with people who are already doing what you want to do as far as next steps. And then from there, you can go into the resume and then the job search and so forth. But definitely start with brainstorming and then next network with individuals in that same capacity. The last question, what advice would you give to someone on unemployment now and deciding to wait until September to go back to work? So the first thing I would say is a lot of times people consider someone who may be on unemployment getting the extra $300 who may not be back to work. They may think that they're intentionally not going back to work. They're intentionally not looking for work. For some people, that may be the case. But I also try to think about other people's circumstances. A person may be on unemployment and may not be going back to work till September because of their kids. Their kids may still be at home. A person may have anxiety because they experienced COVID. A person may have lost a loved one and they're depressed. There could be a number of reasons why a person is not back to work. So I don't want to just assume, okay, because a person is on unemployment and they're just getting extra $300 of work, they're just not actively looking because they make more money on unemployment than they do in a job that they left before or that they were laid off from before. So I don't want to just have that assumption about most individuals who are in that predicament. However, for the individuals who have the ability to work, who do not fall in the categories that I mentioned, I recommend that you start looking for work now in May, because if you wait until September, it is going to be a crowded market. So if your chances of finding work was high before, and you weren't able to get any hits before, then you're probably going to have twice a struggle come September. Employers are hiring right now, and people are not really applying for jobs. But my recommendation is to take advantage of working these jobs now, because it's a possibility September comes and that opportunity that may be there now may not be available for you then. And that's where the settling part comes in, because now I have to hurry up and find me a job. So you just take anything. Right now, if you start now, you have the opportunity to really think, brainstorm, network, do a lot of the things that I mentioned in this video. So that way, by September comes, you have options and you're able to choose something that you truly have a desire to do. So definitely start now using the strategies that I mentioned throughout this video. And then that way you can apply them as you go forth in your career journey. One of the things I want to mention before I close out is everything that I just mentioned. I have a lot of this information in some of my ebooks that I created. A lot of people find these ebooks useful. I have one that is a do-it-yourself cover letter and resume guide. These ebooks are usually $9.99 a piece, but I am going to give it to anyone who is listening to this webinar or anyone who is connected through SMC, I am going to give these ebooks away for $1. So they're $1 a piece. I will keep them at $1 for SMC users only until May 31st. So at the end of this month, it will expire and it will go back to $9.99, but you can learn how to update your resume, and there's templates in there. You can create your own LinkedIn profile and job search guide. There's also one for phone interviewing, where you can learn all the tips and tricks on how to be successful at a phone interview. And then also tips and tricks on how to successfully pass a virtual and an on-site interview. So if you want, you can go ahead and download those ebooks, and the code is SMC 2021. At checkout, you just put that in for the discount, and you will receive it for $1. Also, to stay connected to me, here's my Instagram and all of my other social media handles. My website is jhcareercoaching.com. Definitely go to my website if you want to learn more about my services. I do have a $10 resume review that I do give people feedback on. A lot of people find them helpful. So if you go on my website and click on $10 resume review, you can email me your resume and I will respond back within 24 hours and giving you feedback tips on how to improve in your resume. And then also go to YouTube and look up my name, Jamelah Henry, and subscribe to my channel. And as I mentioned, I will share, I've been sharing videos every few weeks, and you can check them out. If you go to the playlist, Career Journey 2021, there's a series there that you can start with clip 1 that will hopefully help you with your own career journey. It's been a pleasure sharing this presentation. I hope that you were able to learn something from it. My goal is that you become resilient and you remarket yourself, and that you land in a role that you truly have a passion and a desire to do.
Thank you to Jamelah for preparing that presentation. And a reminder to anyone who submitted questions, we will be sending them to her so she can respond to folks as soon as possible. We're going to give away our next door prize of the day. The winner of a $25 Giant gift card is Crystal Williams. We will talk to you soon to discuss getting your prize to you. A quick reminder to everyone watching, we will be having the next event for the 2021 Single Mothers Conference in August and are planning an outdoor in-person event. So please stay tuned for more details. We'd like to thank Benchmark for being our returning title sponsor and Health Partner Plans for being our engaging sponsor and for supporting single mothers. Coming up at 12, we have our workshop on mental health with licensed clinical social worker and therapist Delisi Washington. And just a quick reminder to anyone participating in the scavenger hunt that for as of right now, you will have until 12 p.m. to post or to upload your pictures for the scavenger hunt. So just remember to tag the Single Mothers Conference on either Facebook or Instagram and include the hashtag SMC 2021. Thank you.